And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this party started. This is 4 rounds of boxing in the featherweight division. When the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, Marty Salmon. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing blue trimmed with red and weighing in at 125 pounds. He's 4-7 with 1 draw and a KO to his credit. From Thousand Palms, California, here is Inzunza. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing gray trimmed with white and weighing 126 pounds. His record is 3-9, 2 KOs, fighting out of Santa Rosa, California. Ladies and gentlemen, Oscar Villa.
All right, we're about ready to get underway now, and as you heard Michael Buffer explaining, those introductions were actually reversed. So in the light trunks is Noe Inzunza, in the blue trunks is Oscar Villa. Oscar Villa known as El Gato Negro, the black cat. But other than that, we don't know a lot about these two fighters. There are a couple of club fighters who come into this bout. Inzunza with a 4-7 record and Villa with a 3-9 record. So a couple of guys trying to establish themselves here tonight.
And sometimes the club fighters make the best fighters because they're the hungry ones, Joe. These are guys that are trying to establish themselves, trying to make a mark on the world, and these are guys that really sometimes the best wars come from.
They're not taking a lot of time to figure each other out, Joe. They're going after it here.
Villa, a Northern Californian from Santa Rosa, and Inzunza from Thousand Palms down in the Palm Springs area. And not only do we not know that much about them, they don't know that much about each other. So they have to kind of try to feel each other out in the early parts of this scheduled 4-round fight.
Inzunza, you know, has had 11 fights, so he's no stranger to the ring. And sometimes these guys, because of that ring experience, that pays off a little bit. And with Villa, he's also quite a journeyman as well with 12 fights. These guys are both opponents given their records.
Yeah, now, George, a couple of fighters like this, these are obviously guys hoping to make a name for themselves and work their way up.
Their job tonight really is to impress the promoter, who happens to be sitting ringside. And sometimes the best fights aren't the guys that have the best records, but the ones that put on the best shows. And so we'll see what happens tonight.
Oh, you saw Inzunza there, a big left that really missed. Is that all you got? You know, let's see what else you got. That wasn't a big deal. And he kind of straightens Villa with that left.
Inzunza seems to be the more confident fighter. He seems to know exactly what he wants to do.
Inzunza landed a couple on the face that time of Villa.
And Villa fights in a very traditional Hispanic style. He's a come-at-you, you know, tight stance type of fighter. And we hope that these are the type of fighters that really come forward, come at you, and come to battle, come to war. And if Inzunza scares them off early in the fight, then this guy will be backpedaling most of the night. And that's not what we want.
Little less than 30 seconds to go here in round 1 of a scheduled 4-rounder as they exchange blows here as the round is about to come to an end. If you're scoring this round, I would say at this point it has to go with Inzunza. Joe Fonte with Dwight Clark and George Chung back at the Palace Indian Gaming Center in Lemoore, California, where it's Noe Inzunza in the light trunks going against Oscar Villa in the blue, round 2 of a scheduled 4-round fight. I would say in round 1 we had to give the edge to Inzunza, who seemed to land more punches and had Villa up against the ropes a couple of times. Almost a low blow there by Villa. And I don't know, Inzunza, guys, keeps kind of with his facial expressions, kind of saying, "Hey, is that all you got?" You know.
He seems very confident.
It's not like football where they have a whole second half to go in and readjust their game plan. They're making quick adjustments on the fly here. Now they're starting to stick and a little going. And that's what we like. We want this guy to come on and bring it now. That's exactly what we want.
I don't know what got into Villa, but all of a sudden he kicked it in here.
It felt like he hit him. Oh, there's a cut.
It's right over the left eye of Villa, but maybe he tasted the blood and maybe that motivated him a little bit. And that's certainly making for a game fight.
Villa just really, look at that big windup as he really seemed to, all of a sudden, this got his attention.
And I kind of like the loping uppercut that Villa's coming up with.
A big left by Villa and another one.
Now Inzunza, look at that big windup that he takes. Telegraphs that punch and still is able to get it in on him.
I guess you'd call that a stylized punch.
Inzunza now bleeding from the nose. And Villa from the eye.
Seems to have weathered the storm, and Villa looks a little tired now. He looks a little winded.
Yeah, that would wind you from those big swings he was taking.
Overhand right there by Inzunza.
Those are going San Francisco to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Blood from the nose of Inzunza.
The round at about the 2:20 mark now, so about 40 seconds to go as both fighters have slowed down a little bit from that pace they were setting.
And a big right, didn't hurt him. A left and a right. Oh, and a body punch. Oh, and back comes Villa.
Both of these guys with a little bit of showman in them. And 10 seconds to go in the round as the big overhead
crazy big punch
from Villa lands on Inzunza.
And that would be two in a row and then a follow.
And they're going to take it right on down to the wire as the second round comes to a close. Inzunza against Oscar Villa. I don't know, guys. Maybe they split the first two. I don't know what got into Villa all of a sudden, but he got hit and then he kicked it into another gear.
Well, these guys won't win any world championships, but they are entertaining.
They're going after the People's Championship tonight.
Well, that big windup that Villa does, and you know, he telegraphs that punch, but he's still able to get it in.
It's kind of a loping, softball-like uppercut.
And Inzunza had kind of an attitude that, you know, hey, you can't hurt me, and then all of a sudden he was getting hurt. The blood in his nose, evidence of that.
Right.
They both now have settled down a little bit here to start the third round, but that was a wild second round between the two of them.
Typically, when a fighter has 11 fights, typically they're past that 4-round fight stage. You know, when you have 11, 12 fights, you're typically going into the 6, 8-round bouts. But these two fighters, since their loss record, really has kept them at this 4-round level. So based on possibly their endurance level, which doesn't look great right now because they're only into the third round, maybe is one of the factors why they're not going past those 4-round fights.
Yeah, there was that big uppercut from Villa that didn't connect, and Inzunza then turned his back on him. Luckily got away and turned around in time. I don't know if a fighter exactly knows what to do when a guy turns his back and goes over to the other corner. But you're right, George. They definitely have slowed the pace here in the third round. We're approaching the 2-minute mark here of round 3 of a scheduled 4-rounder. And we haven't seen the fireworks that we saw in round 2. All of a sudden, things kicked up for both of these fighters.
Inzunza is definitely the more polished, more screened boxer.
That big uppercut again by Villa. Those wild swings.
And I think at this point, they're going for crowd points, and Villa is definitely coming away.
connect with some of those big swings he's taking, because those take a lot out of you when you string together a series of those like that.
And we're not really sure if these Hollywood antics are really a sign that he's hurt, or if he's playing with them. But certainly they're coming to finish this third round.
Third round over. Final round coming up. Final round between Noe Inzunza and Oscar Villa. Villa in the blue trunks, El Gato Negro. Noe Inzunza in the light. And I'd say at this point it's pretty much anybody's fight, although Villa, with some antics between rounds, kind of making a look over toward Inzunza to try and intimidate him. He's been full of theatrics. Now can he back it up in the fourth round? That's the question.
He's quite a jovial chap, as we would say.
I didn't know jovial counts in boxing. I mean, he gets hit and then he acts like I don't know what you compare him to. He acts like he's staggered and then winds up with that big right.
Oh, good left by Inzunza.
And I think if you're Inzunza, you just have to keep your wits about yourself and not let yourself be sucked in by the theatrics of Villa.
I'm predicting the last 90 seconds of this is going to be nasty.
Well, we're 1 minute into the fourth and final round here between these two journeyman fighters, both looking to make a name for themselves and get on another card.
I think the other thing that helps, typically fighters at this level aren't always able to get a television fight, and so the fact that they know that the lights are on and the cameras are rolling perhaps is fueling the fire for some of these antics, these showmanship antics.
Two good punches from Inzunza. Three. Good body punch.
Yeah, he's connected solidly in this round and
More
got him with an uppercut there. And I'm noticing that Villa's not quite going into the theatrics that he did, so he might be hurt. Well, he still has a little of it in him, doesn't he? Yeah, Villa very entertaining, but you'd have to say that Inzunza has stayed much more calm and professional about this fight. Approaching the 2:20 mark now of the fourth and final round, so inside 40 seconds to go now in the fight. If they're going to come with it, this is the time right now.
And one would hope that their instincts, at least being in over 10 fights, these pro fights, they would know they're coming in to the final round and that one of these guys really needs to close the show.
Well, I think if you're Inzunza, you just have to be careful at this point, because despite the fact that Villa has been the more theatrical of the two, I think Inzunza has stayed basic and has fought a good fight. Final seconds here of the fourth and final round as Inzunza lands a couple of punches at the very end, and that's going to do it. We'll be back with a decision after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards. Terry Smith scores the bout 38-38. He has it even. Ralph McKnight and Abe Bellardo both score the bout 39-37 for the winner by majority decision, Noe Inzunza.